Going to tell you this right now. You don't want to miss a single second of what we have cooked up on today's Lakers report. But first, this is why you subscribe to the channel, because we keep you in the know with all things Lakers all year round. And we're nearing another milestone here on the channel of 46,000 subscribers. Help us get there by hitting that red subscribe button down below. 331 new folks to the channel means 46,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/LakersTV. That link will take you to the promised land. And let's tip off today's show. This is the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Hope all of you are having a fantastic start to your week. Here's what we have coming up on today's show. LeBron James, with that contract extension looming, not committed to an extension. We'll dive into that. Could the Lakers keep Russell Westbrook in order to deal for a star? But which star are they going to be able to trade for by dealing Russell Westbrook? We'll go over that. Some concerns about Anthony Davis's recovery coming off an injury-plagued season. And also, could the Lakers target DeAndre Ayton via a sign-and trade? All of that coming up on the docket for today's show. But we start off with the king, LBJ, LeBron James. Could he press pause on a possible contract extension with Los Angeles? He's right now eligible for a 2-year, $97 million contract on August 4th. And according to reports, LBJ has not committed to signing it. This coming from Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report. Does a great job covering the salary cap. The Lakers were paralyzed at the trade deadline without clarity from James, and they remain so. The star forward is eligible for that extension on August 4th, but most of the team's moves will need to happen in June and July. The Lakers are stuck without a commitment from LBJ, whose contract expires after this upcoming season. Competing executives and agents do not expect the team to get clarity from James ahead of the draft and free agency. Now, this is classic LeBron James. You never know what his future is going to entail, and you can see why LeBron wants to weigh his future. He's not sure what the direction of the Lakers is. He's not sure what they're going to do in free agency. There are looming question marks about Darvin Ham and him being a first-time NBA head coach. There's also this. A couple of NBA franchises could be started in Seattle as well as Las Vegas, and there are some rumblings that Fenway Sports Group, which is LeBron's kind of partnership in one of his business entities, could look to buy a team in Las Vegas if they do start a franchise there. And what better franchise icon to start your franchise with than LeBron James? But I think mostly it's LeBron in Los Angeles just trying to see what the direction is of the Lakers, because over the last decade, their playoff appearances deep into the playoffs have been few and far between. Now, as for the numbers with LBJ in LA, no questions at all. Still remains to be one of the best players in the NBA, one of the most dominant all-around forces that we've ever seen. And right now, he's still a top 5 player in the league. Injury is a little bit of a concern for him as he nears 38 years old coming up in December, about 2 decades in the league at this point as well. So there's mileage on the tires, no question about it. But if you're LeBron, life's good right now, right? You're trying to figure out what's going on with your 2 sons and what their next basketball steps are. You're tied in with a bunch of great and successful business endeavors, all happening in the Los Angeles area right now. And his business endeavors reach far beyond just entertainment. So he's trying to feel a couple of different avenues here with his basketball career, his professional career, and look ahead into the future. And for him, there's no reason to really lock yourself down over the next couple of years. And this is part of the problem with LeBron James. You never know what's going to happen in the future. And what's going on in between the ears, he always keeps it a secret between him and his crew. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so I want to hear from all of you right down below, especially if you get hit with that YouTube ad break. Should the Lakers extend LeBron James? Type a Y for yes or an N for no. Let me know and sound off in the comment section. As for the latest on Russell Westbrook, the Lakers keeping Russ is appearing more likely. And look, we kind of got this indication during the introductory press conference for Darvin Ham when he called Russ one of the best players of all time, which technically is factual, and said that he can bring the best out of Russell Westbrook. But The Athletic discussing these options with Russ, this coming from John Hollinger, I see little to no hope of trading Westbrook before the season starts, with one exception. If some prominent heavily compensated player becomes so disgruntled that a situation that he starts pushing for the exits, in that case, a package of Westbrook's expiring deal and unprotected firsts in 2027 and then in 2 years, 2029 from that point might be compelling. Obviously, it's going to be difficult for that to happen given that nobody has any games scheduled between now and October, which is why I think it's far more likely that the Lakers end up carrying Westbrook into the year and trying again as we get closer to the trade deadline. Again, with the end game being to convert Westbrook and future draft equity into a star. But let me ask you this question, and this is the topic of conversation that we continue to have with Russ as well as the Lakers. What star player are you getting back in exchange for Russell Westbrook, who's aging, his play is declining, and that contract of $47 million? There aren't any teams out there that will trade the Lakers a star to help them out and then take on the baggage of Russell Westbrook. So I don't think it makes any sense at all, and that's why the Lakers right now are in a precarious position. You know who's not in a precarious position? It's Chat Sports, because we continue to kill the game and pump out great content. And our live shows, whether it be throughout the NBA Finals or upcoming for the NBA Draft, most watched on YouTube. Just like our NBA Draft coverage over the last couple of years, and we're trying to run it back on June 23rd, a week from Thursday during the 2022 NBA Draft. Myself, Harrison Graham, going to be live for every single pick over the 2 rounds, talking and breaking down and dissecting every single selection. So make sure you subscribe and join us, youtube.com/chatsportstv. We'll be going live on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. That's Thursday, June 23rd for the 2022 NBA Draft. Still to get to on today's show, Anthony Davis and then DeAndre Ayton. Concerns about AD's injury recovery. We continue to talk about injuries with the unicorn AD. Said on the Nuke Squad that he hasn't shot a basketball since April 5th. That's the date of the last game of the season, his last game of the year. AD has taken a longer break before when the offseason begins. And for AD, got to get in the lab, man. I mean, you shot sub 20% from beyond the arc, but injuries have certainly hindered the last couple of years of his Lakers tenure, especially a season ago. Had the MCL sprain against the T-Wolves on December 17th. On January 25th, returned after missing 17 games, and on February 16th, after it seemed as though he was starting to play some pretty good basketball, suffered a mid-foot sprain against the Jazz, then returned early from injury to try to help save the season on April 1st, and then everything came crashing down after that. Last 2 years for AD, and this is why the trade rumors are out there, because he's one of the lone valuable trade assets that the Lakers have on this roster. 78 of 154 games he has missed the last 2 years. That is a problem considering the salary and what the Lakers ask of Anthony Davis. So with that, I ask you this, your concern level with AD's health moving forward. I want you to scale it for me from 1 to 10. I mean, it has to be for me a 7 or 8 because of the significance that he plays on this Lakers roster, but be real with me and let me know. This is a big year for Anthony Davis. You're coming off that injury-plagued season in which we just talked about. There are big expectations for this team. Anytime you have LeBron James, there's pressure to win a championship. And for Darvin Ham, he's really looking to put this Lakers team in a position where they can compete for an NBA championship this year. And Anthony Davis is going to be a monster factor as part of that equation. Stats with the Lakers over the last 3 years for Anthony Davis: 24 points per game, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks per night, as he continues to be, when on the floor and healthy, one of the best defensive players in the league, and he's been able to connect on about 51% of his field goals. So the production, never a question with Anthony Davis. His ability and the level of it, never a question with Anthony Davis. It continues to be nagging injuries and his lack of availability, because sometimes your ability, the best ability, is availability, and Anthony Davis hasn't brought that to the table for the Lakers. As for another big man, DeAndre Ayton, set to be a free agent after not agreeing to a contract extension and not being offered it by the Phoenix Suns last offseason. And his future, it's one of the more fascinating storylines in the NBA right now. According to Mark Stein, Ayton cited most as the biggest player likely to switch teams among sources during the NBA offseason. Other reporters have mentioned a sign-and trade as the most likely possibility so that Phoenix can get some value back for their former number 1 overall pick. I mean, if you lose him for nothing and he's still really young, that's a bad front office move for Phoenix. But the rift has grown between Phoenix, between the coaching staff, the front office, and the former number 1 overall pick, which is why they might be headed for a divorce. Stein on Ayton in the Substack, specifically where Ayton would be going as we speak on June 13th, is much harder, as he said this obviously the other day, much harder to pinpoint. What seems clear with less than 3 weeks to go until free agency commences on June 30th is that Phoenix is increasingly expected to engage in serious sign and trade talks centered around Ayton, with external skepticism only rising regarding the Suns' willingness to make a hefty long-term investment in their center. Here's the problem with the Lakers. We can look at Ayton as the player and say he'd be a front court addition. He'd be a really good player on this team, although his fit with Anthony Davis wouldn't make a lot of sense unless Anthony Davis is also included in that trade. They don't have a lot of financial flexibility to take on that Ayton contract if he were to sign that deal with Phoenix, and then if Phoenix were to trade him away to a team like Los Angeles. So I would say right now on the meter of likeliness, with 1 not being realistic and 10 being very realistic, I'm going like 1, but this is a really good player who's still really young, who can impact games on both ends of the floor, and I think he's a really good player and still tapping in to his fullest potential as a former number 1 overall pick. So name a free agent that the Lakers will sign. I'm going to put you into the test. Get into your crystal ball and let me know. Give me a name or names in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hey, man, we're movers and shakers right here on the Lakers Report. You look at the numbers here. They've been awesome. A lot of that thanks to you. We want more subscribers. We want more people to enjoy our content because more subs equals more content. So make sure you hit that red sub button. And thanks for watching today's show.